He's a beekeeper. He's a bluegrass musician. He's the unofficial mayor of his entire Oklahoma town. And by the second half of this move, he's the target of a heist. This is the Rivals of Amziah King. And Matthew McConaughey has never been more charming. Hey, welcome back to the channel from the director of The Vast of Night, a movie that could not be more different from that one. Matthew McConaughey, Kurt Russell, Cole Sprouse, Owen Teague, The Rivals of Amziah King. In theaters August 14th, 2026. Let's break down the whole story. Written and directed by Andrew Patterson, his follow-up to The Vast of Night, the acclaimed low-budget sci-fi debut that put him on the map, this time deep in the backwoods of rural Oklahoma, a beekeeper, a bluegrass band, a community held together by one man's charisma. It premiered at SXSW back in 2025 before finally reaching theaters. Worth noting, that's a genuinely long gap between festival premiere and wide release. SXSW happened in March of 2025. The film didn't open in US theaters until August 14th, 2026, nearly a year and a half later. That kind of delayed rollout is fairly common for smaller distributor-backed festival films. Black Bear Pictures took its time, building momentum before the wider theatrical push. For context on the director, Andrew Patterson's debut, The Vast of Night, was a critically acclaimed, low-budget sci-fi thriller set in 1950s New Mexico, built almost entirely around long, unbroken dialogue scenes and a genuine sense of atmosphere. Critics have pointed out just how different this follow-up is tonally, trading flying saucers while keeping that same, confident, assured filmmaking style. Matthew McConaughey plays Amziah King, motor-mouthed, sympathetic, and the undisputed center of this entire Oklahoma community. He runs the town's premier honey-making operation. He fronts a bluegrass band made up of his closest friends, including some formerly incarcerated men. He's welcomed straight into his inner circle. Critics are calling it one of McConaughey's most effective performances in years. Genuinely hard to imagine anyone else in the role. Beyond his own charisma, Amziah's community is built specifically around second chances. Several of the men in his band and honey operation are formerly incarcerated, and Amziah has given every one of them a genuine place to belong, without judgment attached to it. That sense of forgiveness, central emotional through lines, long before the rivalry plot even enters the picture. Angelina LookingGlass plays Kateri, Amziah's former foster daughter, making her feature film debut. Kurt Russell, Cole Sprouse, Owen Teague, Tony Revolori, Scott Shepard, Rob Morgan, Jake Horowitz, Catherine Dyer. A deep character-driven ensemble built around one central relationship. A bit more on that supporting cast. Owen Teague and Tony Revolori both play members of Amziah's bluegrass band, regulars in his day-to-day inner circle. Scott Shepard plays Amziah's RV living friend and co-worker, famous within the story for being completely unintelligible to everyone around him. Rob Morgan and Catherine Dyer round out the town's wider community of oddball, memorable locals. The film opens loose and freewheeling. Amziah and his band put on a show while waiting outside a fast food joint. We learn he's not just a musician, he's also a working beekeeper, and local detectives are already asking for his expertise on a string of honey barrel thefts happening around the area. It's a slice of life opening, vibrant, quirky, and entirely carried by McConaughey's charm. Early on, during a honey inspection at a processing factory with Amziah's musician crew, there's a near-fatal accident, played entirely for laughs, and only funny because the person involved walks away completely fine. Critics have noted it's a genuinely tricky tonal needle to thread, but Patterson pulls it off, setting the stage for a film that blends broad comedy with real emotional stakes right from the start. Then Kateri comes back into his life. Following a tragedy and years of separation, she's lost her mother and left the foster care system behind. Reuniting with Amziah, her former foster parent, changes everything for her. He's elated to have her back, and he immediately starts teaching her everything he knows: beekeeping, music, and the community he's spent his whole life building. Amziah nudges Kateri to sing with his band. He takes her to a potluck, telling her the story behind every single dish, each one tied to one of the town's oddball locals. Reviewers describe this stretch as quietly moving shots of Amziah and Kateri covered in bees together as if they're becoming part of the same hive. One standout comedic scene, Amziah and his RV living friend get called to an elementary school to handle a beehive. Several kids have already been stung by the time they arrive. His friend, played by Scott Shepherd, speaks in a way nobody in town can actually understand, completely garbled, indecipherable, which becomes its own running joke throughout the whole film. Worth pointing out, the original songs throughout this film have already drawn serious awards. Buzz from critics. The score, from Eric Alexander and Jared Bolmer, blends together instruments rarely heard in movies, giving the whole story a stirring, soulful backbone that runs underneath every scene. Beyond the music, one of the film's central through-lines is a comparison critics keep coming back to, the hierarchy of a beehive mapped directly onto the way Amziah's human community functions. Every relationship, every role within his circle of friends gets quietly framed through that same lens. Work, loyalty, protection, and belonging all echoed in how a hive actually operates. It's a familiar metaphor on paper, but reviewers say the film still makes it feel genuinely earned. Cinematographer Miguel Menz brings a visually sumptuous quality to the rural Oklahoma setting. Critics have specifically highlighted shots of Amziah and Kateri harmoniously covered in bees, calling them some of the most striking images in the film. Editor Patrick J. Smith keeps the pacing sharp and dynamic throughout the first half before the tone shifts into something more suspenseful. Then, without warning, the film shifts completely. The second half moves into an entirely different kind of story, bringing into focus the actual titular rivals, threatening Amziah's honey business. Chief among them, Kurt Russell, playing a genuinely villainous role, critics say adds real menace to the back half of the film. As the rivalry intensifies, Kateri is forced to step up and take over the beekeeping operation more directly than she expected to. She starts investigating exactly who's been sabotaging the family business, and the story pulls her deeper into danger than a simple honey dispute should ever really go. The mystery eventually builds into an unorthodox heist sequence, playing out across bridges and rivers in the rural landscape surrounding Amziah's town. Kateri partners closely with Remick, played by Jake Horowitz, another trusted member of Amziah's inner circle, as the two of them try to get to the bottom of who's really behind it all. This is where the film finds its darker, crime thriller edge. Kateri, the same young woman who spent the first half of the film learning gentleness and community from Amziah, becomes willing to go to genuinely serious lengths for revenge and to restore what belongs to the man who took her back in. Critics single this out as a real narrative passing of the torch, Kateri fully taking center stage for the film's second half. That shift lands harder because of everything established earlier. Kateri arrives in the film having already lost her mother and aged out of the foster system, carrying real grief underneath her reunion with Amziah. So when the story asks her to fight for the one stable home, it's not just plot mechanics. It's the emotional payoff of everything Amziah taught her about loyalty in the first half. Reviewers say Angelina LookingGlass sells that transformation completely. Here's where I have to be careful, because reviewers are being deliberately vague about the specific final resolution of the heist and Kateri's confrontation with Amziah's rivals, and I won't invent details that haven't actually been confirmed. What critics do agree on, the ending brings the story back around to the values Amziah spent the whole film teaching: community, forgiveness, and looking out for your own. Multiple reviewers have flagged the same structural tension though. The film's crime thriller second half isn't quite as tightly written as its jovial, character-driven first half. Kurt Russell's villain specifically gets layers that some critics feel arrive a little too late to fully land. Still, the consensus lands strongly positive, one outlet calling it already one of the best films they'd seen that year. Other reviews echo that same enthusiasm. One outlet called it a film fit for a king, a genuinely uplifting, inspirational good time, capturing an entire lifestyle of the American heartland. Another described Amziah's momentum throughout the film as breakneck, never letting the energy of that central performance slow down for long. A third called it proof independent filmmakers don't need a blockbuster budget to create something genuinely memorable. Kurt Russell's casting specifically has drawn a lot of pre-release attention. At 74 years old, he's still one of the most recognizable character actors working today, and reviewers note that even with underdeveloped villain writing, his sheer screen presence adds real weight to the film's back half tension. It's the kind of casting that elevates material, even when the script itself doesn't fully catch up to him. Across the board, this is being called a genuine showcase for both leads. McConaughey brings the exact Southern hospitality and charm he's always been best known for, and Angelina LookingGlass, in her feature debut, is being singled out as the film's real revelation, essentially carrying the entire second half on her own. The Rivals of Amziah King, in theaters now, written and directed by Andrew Patterson, distributed by Black Bear Pictures, rated R. 2 hours and 10 minutes. A story about community, music, and how far someone will go to protect both. That's the complete breakdown of The Rivals of Amziah King. Thanks for watching this one all the way through. These character-driven recaps are honestly some of my favorites to make. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. It genuinely helps the channel way more than you'd think. And if you want more recaps like this, subscribe so you never miss the next one. See you in the next video.